Great to hop on with you. Been really excited to get together and talk about the work that you've been putting together and how we've been rolling out this year and how do we get into next year.
Thanks, Ed. I love being on the show because we've had such great conversations around real life fun stuff, which always translate into work stuff because I think for both of us, work is fun. And yes, we are at the end of the year, and goodness gracious, what a roller coaster year it's been. As I've been kind of sitting down to get focused for 2025, this whole what does that mean? And how do I change all these wonderful people I know into making some money? I'm realizing is a much more common question across the board.
It's been, to your point, odd year, so to speak. It always gets that way, especially every 4 years, if you'd like to connect those dots. But
Yeah.
I agree with exactly what you're saying. The uncertainty, but then there is some certainty in where we might go, who we might connect with to try and have a more secure year in future. I really appreciate this time to connect. I agree. When it's something that you enjoy, you feel like it should be work. But I love that it is. So it's
Yeah,
fantastic.
that's exactly right. I think the thing is that we wouldn't be where we are today if we weren't good at certain things. And so it's always hard to take a step back because we can dive right in and make some really excellent objectives and decisions and get these great results. But when you want to get to the next level, sometimes it's nice to step back and be a little bit more objective. So I'm looking forward to showing you this technique that I've been using with some of my clients and employers. And maybe we can take you through it too. And this will help further formulate your plan for 2025.
Let's do it.
Marvelous. I'm calling it 2025 planning, making the most of your relationships. What I want to do is this is supposed to be a short and sweet presentation to get you and other people that I work with to think about the relationships that they have and help prioritize what those relationships bring to you by looking at what sort of revenue they can bring to you, the timing of that revenue, and how you nurture those relationships to figure out what 2025 might look like financially for you. I think it'll be good fun, and you can really do it off the cuff. And the other thing that's nice is it doesn't really require you to look up any information. Everything's a little, relative. High, medium, low will work to get you started. But what I'll ask you to do today is to go through the relationships that you have, categorize them, talk a little bit about their value to you in the business, look at the timeline for those kinds of deals that might come out of your relationships, figure out what sort of collateral you need, and then work on the follow up, not only on a regular basis, but also on an annual basis.
I love it.
It's fun. All right. Now, I like to show this just to remind everybody.
Here it is. Show me the money.
There's a lot of people that I've spoken to have these most wonderful relationships, and they spend quite a bit of time nurturing those relationships, but the relationships aren't converting to deals. And so I've tried to figure out how I can show that to everybody so they get their relationships to convert. So to get us started, you know all the relationships you have. Maybe in some cases you get frustrated with the fact that they're not progressing in the way that you would like to or you think they should. So what I want to help you do is look at all of those relationships, quantify them, and then help you prioritize how you want to spend your time with these folks.
We all have a limited amount of time that we can spend. So where should we spend that to try and convert the most or have the best chances of converting? That's the reality. We're still living in a chance world because we don't know where everybody is and where their future's headed. But this at least can focus our efforts.
That's right. That's a great way to couch this, is that no one has enough time. But your calendar is very booked. Your time is very booked between your professional and your personal. So this is a way to take your professional life and make it more lucrative. So to get us started, what I would like for you to do, just quick and easy, is maybe give me four-ish client names or people that bring in money. And let's categorize them. Is it a client? Is it a prospect? Is it a partner, or do you have some other relationship with them? And Ed, if you want, I don't need to literally know the customer names because I don't want you to tell us all your secrets, but maybe you can just, kind of give a generic description of what those companies might be.
Sure. One of my clients is a IT VAR out of the East Coast. Second one is a healthcare cloud-based EHR company. That would be a great one to talk about. They are also a client. Put it as a prospect. I've got a FinServe company.
Okay.
And then I do have a partner, a telecom company would be a good one to put there. Large manufacturer.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to take those 4 companies and we're going to talk about their dollar potential. Okay. I don't need numbers. Just high, medium, low will work. So money potential for this IT VAR.
I'd say they're on the mid to high.
Okay.
So let's say more mid.
We'll do mid. Healthcare EHR.
They're on the high side.
Okay. FinServ.
Low.
Okay. Telecom, large manufacturer.
Super high side.
Okay, very good. Now let's talk about the likeliness to spend. Okay. High, medium, low. Same thing.
I'd say high actually for them.
Good.
For the healthcare one, I'd say a medium.
Okay.
For the FinServ, I'd say a low.
Uh-huh.
And for the telecom, I'd say a high for that last one.
Very good. Okay. Now let's talk about decision-making speediness / readiness. So,
that's a great point.
High is very fast, low is very slow.
The first one, I'd say high.
Okay.
Healthcare one, I'd say probably medium. FinServ one, they're probably on the low side.
Gotcha.
And then telecom, I'd say they're actually probably on the high side.
Oh, look at this. You can already start to see what's happening here. Relationship strength. How well do you know these folks? How likely are they going to be to, respond to a text on a Sunday?
The first one's a high. Yeah, definitely the IT one. Yeah. Healthcare, I'd say kind of on the low, honestly.
Interesting. Okay.
And then I would also say the same with the FinServ. I'd say that's low on the relationship.
Okay.
And that one I'd say is a high.
Okay,
They
very
always
good.
respond.
All right. So now what I'm going to do is this. This is my little nerdy way of quantifying, okay? I'm going to convert all of your mediums to 3s, your
Okay.
highs to 5s, and your lows to 1. And since you gave this a high plus, I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah, all right.
Look at that. I know that's cheating. I always so I actually, one of these things, I changed them up to between 0 and 10 because I thought, that's probably a better way to go. But then it takes people a long time to make a decision.
Sure.
Okay, now, so what you see, obviously, right, which you probably instinctively knew, the telecom is really good, right? So you're
Right.
going to start there. The FinServ, low, you might love them, but put those expectations in check, right? And that doesn't mean, by the way, that you're not wrong. They might end up buying and surprise us all. But this is a great way to get started. So I'm just going to color scale this here. So if you were to go after these customers, right, the question is, when do you think you would be able to close these deals, right? Let's start with the telecom. Okay, they looking really good. When do you think you might be able to close them?
I probably would be able to close them in the first quarter. So probably Feb, I would imagine.
Okay. That 2025. And this is a little bit of pipeline management, right? So this is the kind of the very rudimentary way, if you're not using a CRM, a good way just to kind of put in your head what to expect. So let's go to the IT company. Approximately, when do you think you can close that? And by the way, this doesn't discount the fact that you've been working on these deals all along anyway.
Actually, they usually lock in their budgets right away. So January, I would imagine.
Wow, okay. How about your healthcare one?
Their fiscal year doesn't start until Q2, so April probably.
Okay. And then how about this FinServ opportunity?
They are going to be right away. They're going to be in January.
So you're looking at the first few months of this year for these folks. What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about obstacles you need to overcome to close the deals.
Well, I can say that some with the IT VAR, some parts that are not known is because they're partners with so many different manufacturers. So some of the budget may trickle in as we go. There's a standard branding and corporate campaigns and things like that, but then there's going to be added on top of that partner work that would come. So it's a little tricky on forecasting, I would say.
All right. Is there a way for you to know, do you think you would find out if you didn't get the deal?
Yes, I would say they're very communicative.
Okay. What about the healthcare? What sort of obstacles might you have there to close?
With them, they're more on the startup side, so to speak. So there's a lot of financial fluctuations that happen there, and whether there's adequate funding from the investors.
Okay. What about the FinServe company?
The challenge is the relationship. It's not super productive. It's very transactional when it happens, and they're a tougher client to manage and work with at times.
And then what about the telecom?
Challenges are it's a big relationship and with a lot of people involved, so there's a lot of personalities, a lot of requests, a lot of timing considerations. So it's just a big machine to work with.
So it's really interesting. And when I look at all these things and what you're talking about, many of these things are in your control personally, right? Are there any other obstacles or having something else might help accelerate what you're looking for? So in other words, with the timing of this IT, is there is there something you could do to try to lock in that timing?
That's a great question. Are they being more proactive with the decision makers to try and get on their radar earlier? Also, brokering some of the conversations with the partners, because I also work with some of the manufacturer partners that supply to them. So if I'm able to make their lives a little easier with securing their MDF funds, it would make that go a little smoother.
What about the budget conversation here? They're looking for funding. So, for example, is it possible for you to say, I'm making this up fully, you bring in your CFO and your CFO could help them with some sort of financing?
Yes. On top of that, some of our leadership is in that space. So, yes, that'd be very helpful. It's a great suggestion.
Okay. Now, this relationship, this is an interesting one. So I'm gonna ask you the car dealership question. Is there somebody else that could help you that might have a different relationship with your contact or have a different contact with a different relationship? Even you? Is there someone else you could talk to or no?
Maybe bringing in a strategist that is very FinServe focused might alleviate some of their concerns and make them more comfortable.
Good. And then this one. By the way, like lots of relationships is actually happening across the board. It appears that the decision making person is turned into quite a large committee and it's hard to please everybody. So these decisions are definitely taking a lot longer. With something like that, I'm just moving into a bit of solution mode here, but is it possible that the requests that you're getting from these decision makers, are they all the best use of your time? And I ask that in context of, could you have somebody else help them if they're a little bit more kind of task oriented rather than having you spend your time on some of these things? Or is that just par for the course?
That's definitely possible. And I think there's some of the work that is more samey. So it might be able to be efficiently bucketed or categorized, which might make those go more seamlessly and get approval faster versus the things that are more abstract.
Interesting. What we're looking at is something like this. This is your calendar. When we looked at your IT VAR, that was January. The healthcare is April. FinServe is January. Telecom is February. I'm going to turn the likeliness to spend a 5 into like a 75%. The
Okay.
3, the 50, and the 125. I was looking at the solutions, right? And the solutions right now are, unfortunately, from a marketing perspective, these are individual solutions. Sometimes you could set up some sort of very personalized workflow to help buy you some time in how you're spending your one-on-ones with these clients. So in other words, you might be able to set up a workflow where you're sending something saying, hey, just checking in with you guys, I know you're working on the MDF funds and you might not have heard from so-and-so, but I actually know this person that works at that partner. If I can help provide an introduction and try to accelerate that, right? So
Sure.
it's not you literally doing it. It's just something you set aside, you set it up on a workflow. So you're staying in touch kind of automatically without you needing to focus on it. It might be worth just talking to your team or your leadership team and seeing if you can get some support, like not full on full-time support, but hey, can you just attend this meeting? We can talk about financing. Hey, can you attend this meeting? We can talk more about the FinServe space, right? You don't have anything that's the same that I could say you actually need marketing support because actually all of this sits in your hands. with your personal follow-ups. And I don't know what the size of your deals are, Ed, but let's just for argument's sake say a 5 is 100,000 deal, okay?
I see. You're mapping it on the calendar to see when the dollars would hit.
You got it, and putting together expected values. Now just totaling up for the year. What you start to see is that this is your forecast of how you're coming in. If it were me, I'm okay with March being empty because it's possible that the January and February will slip into March, you know?
Yeah, it's a really easy way to forecast and essentially back of the napkin estimations on where it'll fall, which is nice.
I think it's just a great way. You've sorted and grouped what you need to close the deals. You've prioritized based on volume. You set your due dates, and now it's time for you to make it happen. So as simple and as easy as this is, right? The reality is things are going to work and things are going to not work. And you have to start taking note of that. It didn't happen in January because we spent too much time working on the contract. This one came in March because I brought in the CFO and we figured out a financing deal. You start putting all of that together, and when you do, you now are ready for your annual forecast because you're starting to realize what worked, what didn't. I'm quantifying it, because what if you find out that every time you bring in your CFO always helps you close the deal? So there are two things. One, should I always bring in the CFO? And the answer is probably no, because he is or she is the CFO. But what are they bringing that you haven't been able to bring? Now you start to figure out that way to sell. What it does is it keeps you honest. So every month you go through those deals, you adjust the deals, and then as you are tabulating what it is that you need to learn and do and create, it makes it easy for you to be able to get that ready for the following year.
Yeah, and you can look at trend lines, to your point. This makes sense, or it doesn't going forward, or where can I leverage pieces of information or team members in the right spots. It's awesome.
That's exactly right. What makes it interesting is you and your fabulous self can only be at one place at one time. So what enablement tools can you have to make sure you are spending your time as wisely as possible? That's really what this goal really is.
I love it. Thanks for running through that. Yeah, I'm excited to get started on it for myself. Do some introspective work.
It is short and sweet, right? It was like 15 minutes to go through. I think the hardest part is making the time for you to do this so you have a plan in place. And some companies are great at it, and some are great at starting it, but then they're not necessarily good about following through. One of the things I always say when you're sitting in a sales meeting, nobody needs a long story. Like I what they really care about is what worked, what didn't, and what do you need to close the deal, right?
I think it's also really important what you said about connecting up better with people that you already have relationships with. Because if you're constantly trying to fish into a new pond, it's more and more difficult and the odds are way slimmer. So if you already have these great relationships, why not try and figure them out the best? You're already enjoying these relationships that you already have. So why not figure out better ways to help serve them rather than always looking for the new big whale out there?
Yeah, that's a great point. Your existing customers, they have some real potential here. And so I love when you say that. The best customers are the ones you have. And guess what? The second best ones are the referrals that you get from the ones you have. Right?
Thank you so much for taking me through that today.
Thank you. And this was a treat. I love what I do. So I'm glad you made the time for me, and look forward to a follow-up for sure.